Greetings, diners, and welcome to another episode of The Cooking Zone here on the Doomstead Diner. And we are still in the process of working up our Diner 7th anniversary celebration feast. And I started out with just gonna do a surf and turf with some grade AAA prime ribeye steak and Alaska king crab. But as things progressed, I decided on doing more stuff to really fill out this meal as you would order it perhaps in a high-end restaurant. And so I started coming up with other courses to offer up for consumption here on the diner on our anniversary date, 7th anniversary coming right up here. And I added an appetizer, and I added a salad, and I said, well, what am I still missing? Soup. Gotta have soup with a full meal like this. And then after the meal, you want a dessert and coffee, and you should have wine with your meal also. And then there are side dishes, but I'm not doing the side dishes. Other diners will have to bring side dishes. I've already got more food in my refrigerator now that I've got to work my way through in the next few days than I care to discuss, because I just don't eat these quantities normally. Anyhow, so my choice of soup for today is Japanese soup, my favorite Japanese soup, Miso Soup. And I developed a real taste for this back in New York when I used to frequent Japanese restaurants, and decided I would make it at home. And you know, the first things I experimented with were packaged miso soups. And they're okay, some of them anyway. And but they're not really rich. They're not really full of the kind of stuff you want in it to make a real meal. Well, you don't want it to be a whole meal because you got to eat other stuff, but still, you want it to be, you know, have body and, you know, more than just what you get in a package, which is dried stuff. And I developed a technique which I call soup ammendation, which I have gone over on various episodes of the Snap Card Gourmet. And there's ways to amend different packaged soups of various kinds, and also the canned soups. You can amend them also to make them richer, more flavorful, and more nutritious. So we're doing, for this meal, we're doing a miso soup ammendation. And we're starting with a package of Kikkoman tofu miso soup. See? Okay. And it looks real pretty on that picture, doesn't it? You know? But when you take this sucker out of the package, and there are 3 of them in here, so I can make 3 separate editions of miso soup with this one package. But when you take it out, all the stuff that you see in there, the tofu and the seaweed and so forth, it's all dried. And, you know, it reconstitutes okay, but there's, you know, not enough of it. And also the soup itself doesn't have enough body. So I said, well, I'm going to add the stuff that I want in there to really make this soup a restaurant quality soup. And so that's what we're going to do here today. And so what do we add? Well, it's miso soup, so we need miso. Miso is fermented bean paste. Okay, and this is miso. See? Miso. And again, like cheese and other fermented items, this stuff was developed in the days before refrigeration and preserves the food. And you'll notice that I've got a bag clip on this guy and whatnot. This bean paste is actually several months old, and I have not worked my way through it yet because my appetite's been very depressed lately, so haven't been eating much miso soup. So I'm going to add to my mixture probably a couple of tablespoons of miso paste. And then the other thing you see in the photo on the package of Kikkoman is seaweed, which has a lot of nutritious value and is delicious. And there's never enough seaweed, not even in restaurants generally for me. There's never enough seaweed in the soup. So in this case, we buy dried seaweed. Okay. And here's a package of stuff. And this also has been sitting in the fridge for quite a while. And we're going to add the dried seaweed to this. You basically just crumble it up and then drop it in. Okay? And that, adds your nutritional value, and it adds great flavor to your soup and great body. And then finally, in this occasion, you got to add your tofu. And so I buy fresh tofu to add to the soup, which I'm going to cube up before I prep the soup or before I cook it, and drop it in the soup, and that will then really add protein and nutritious value. And as far as the vegan question goes, this is pretty close to a vegan meal. Almost. Not quite, because the Kikkoman has bonito powder in it. And most miso soup has some sort of fish stock that the soup is cooked in. So it's not a perfectly vegan meal in most cases. But if you cook it for yourself and you're a vegan, you can change what you use. Don't use a package of Kikkoman. Use maybe an onion soup package or something like that. And beef broth, not beef broth, you can't use that. Vegetable broth, etc. And you probably can make your base broth all vegetarian. The amount of bonito powder in this, though, is pretty minuscule. So, you have to be a pretty obsessive vegan to let that bother you. But, whatever. Everybody has their own choices. So, I'm not going to cook this soup on camera because that's really fucking boring. There isn't much to it. All I got to do is piece up the stuff, put water in a pot, and I'm going to use for that Alaskan glacial water. Okay? Bottled Alaskan glacial water, which is probably among the best water in the world, actually, these days. And very clean and clear tasting. And if I'm doing a cooking exercise, I'll wash my dishes with the tap water and stuff like that. But on a cooking exercise like this, I want the best water possible. And the water here, you know, is processed with chlorine and so forth. So and fluoride, whatever. And it's not as clean tasting as I want is in my soup. And so I use bottled water. And, you know, as I said, up here around in Alaska, we have really good water, bottled water, and it's not expensive. All right, so I will go and make this soup. Probably not today, because, like I said, I have a lot of stuff that I got to work my way through. But I will make it before the Diner 7th anniversary feast, and I may treat you to some views of me consuming that food, and at least I will get a picture of a still photo of the soup all done, so you know what it looks like after it's been amended and it's ready to go to consume. So, all right, that is another episode in the can here on the Cooking Zone of the Doomstead Diner. And that's all the doom. This time until next time, later, folks.